I have spent enough years around money to notice a pattern that most people miss. They think wealth is built by doing the same thing at every stage, only with bigger numbers. Make more, save more, invest more, repeat. That sounds clean, but life is rarely that clean. The truth is that the right money move changes as your income changes. At one stage, your job is simply to stop drowning. At another, your job is to build. At another, your job is to stop confusing higher income with a better life. That distinction matters more than most people realize. I have seen people making $35,000 a year doing exactly what they should do for their season of life. And I have seen people making $200,000 a year doing exactly the wrong thing for theirs. Zone is building a future. The other is decorating a trap. So if I were explaining money the way I wish more people explained it, I would not begin with one size fits all advice. I would begin with a question. What stage are you in? Because if you are in the wrong stage for the advice you are following, even good advice can injure you. Telling a person living close to the edge to max out every investment account before building any breathing room can be foolish. Telling a person with solid income and room to move that they should keep obsessing over $3 questions can be equally foolish. And telling a high earner that more income alone will solve their life when they have never defined what money is for may be the most expensive mistake of all. I would think about wealth in three broad stages. The first stage is survival with intention. The second stage is system building. The third stage is strategic freedom. The income number itself matters, but not because the number is magical. It matters because the problems change. At lower income, fragility is the problem. At middle income, leakage and disorder are the problem. At higher income, confusion, overconsumption, and imitation become the problem. If you do not recognize which problem is yours, you will waste years solving the wrong one. So let me start where many people actually live. The lower, call it $35,000 a year, or anything close enough that your bills are not abstract. At that level, the first priority is not perfect optimization. The first priority is breathing room. I would not talk to a person in that stage as if they are one app away from financial freedom. I would talk to them with respect. Because when income is tight, small mistakes are amplified. A 500-dollar emergency can become a long chain of interest charges. A missed bill is not just a missed bill. It becomes stress, fees, bad decisions, and very often shame. That is why the first job at this stage is not to look sophisticated. It is to create enough margin that ordinary life stops feeling like a sequence of emergencies. If I were earning around that level, the first thing I would do is become painfully aware of every dollar that enters and exits my life. Not because tracking itself is noble, because ignorance is expensive. A remarkable number of people do not know what they spend in a month. They know a few large bills. They know whether the month felt hard, but they do not know the actual total. They do not know how much of their money is being directed with intention and how much is escaping through habit. You cannot improve what you refuse to see. So I would look at the numbers first. Take home pay, rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, debt payments, subscriptions, convenience spending, everything. I would not do this to humiliate myself. I would do it because truth is cheaper than confusion. Once the truth is visible, a low-income plan becomes much clearer. I need a small emergency reserve. I need to organize my debt. I need to stop obvious waste. And I need to increase my earning power. That is the order. A lot of people want to skip directly to investing because investing sounds like progress. Sometimes it is. But if you have no cash buffer at all, no clarity, and high interest debt growing faster than your discipline, then the most urgent problem in your financial life is not that you have not yet bought an index fund. The most urgent problem is that you are financially fragile. I would start by trying to save a small but real percentage of take-home pay, not because that percentage alone will transform everything. Because saving has two jobs at this stage. It builds cash and it builds identity. A person who starts saving 5% or 10% of take home, even in modest amounts, stops seeing themselves as purely reactive. That matters. Money is not only arithmetic, it is behavior. And behavior is shaped by identity. If you save regularly, you begin to feel that your income is not merely something to survive on. It is also something that can be directed. That psychological shift is small in description and huge in consequence. The first goal for that savings should not be glamorous. It should be a simple reserve, 1 month of essentials. Maybe 2, enough to create a little shock absorption. I have always liked shock absorption. Without it, one bad week can start a chain reaction that lasts for months. With it, not every surprise has to become debt. And if there is high interest debt already sitting on the balance sheet, I would organize that immediately. List the balances, list the interest rates, list the minimum payments, then choose a method. If you are the kind of person who will stay motivated by visible wins, the snowball method may help. If you care more about pure math, the avalanche method usually saves more money. I do not enjoy internet arguments about which is morally superior. The best method is the one that actually gets used. The point is not to admire a framework. The point is to eliminate a drag. At lower income, expensive consumer debt is especially dangerous because it compounds against a person who has very little room for error. A richer person can be foolish and survive it for a while. A lower income person cannot afford many foolish years. That is why this stage is less about elegant strategy and more about triage. Stop the bleeding. Build a little buffer. Reduce the cost of bad luck. Now here is where most people go wrong. They assume the answer is endless cutting. Number cutting matters. But cutting has limits. At lower income, the biggest lever is often not spending less forever. It is earning more. That is why I would treat earning power as a financial asset, not as a motivational phrase. As an asset. If I were at that stage, I would ask which skill the market values more than the one I currently sell. Not in theory, in reality. I would ask where demand is strong, what people are actually willing to pay for, and what I could start learning without waiting for some perfect future. A lot of people stay stuck because they think raises are handed out by life in the same way weather arrives. They wait. I prefer motion. Maybe that means learning a marketable skill at night. Maybe it means taking freelance projects. Maybe it means reaching out to people who already have the job you want. Maybe it means moving industries. Maybe it means choosing discomfort on purpose for a while. That is not always fair. I know that. The world is not fair in how it distributes housing costs, transportation burdens, healthcare risk, and all the rest. But fairness is not the same thing as strategy. My job is to live in reality as it is, not as I wish it were. And in reality, at lower income, the person who increases earning power changes their financial future far faster than the person who merely keeps trimming streaming services. The small cuts help you survive. The larger income leap helps you escape. That is why the low-income stage has one central mission. Breathe, not forever. Just enough to stop panicking, enough to stop borrowing at bad terms, enough to start making forward-looking decisions instead of emergency decisions. That is stage 1. Now suppose income rises. Call it 75,000 or anything close enough that bills are no longer pure emergency and you can feel some room. This is a beautiful and dangerous stage. Beautiful because you finally have a chance to build. Dangerous because you can easily mistake relief for mastery. A lot of people get to this stage and think, I am good now. They are not good. They are just less desperate. Those are not the same thing. This is the stage where a financial life either starts compounding or starts inflating. The difference is systems at middle income. I no longer want to think of money as only a problem to be contained. I want to think of it as a process to be structured. Now the question becomes, how do I make every new dollar land in the right place before lifestyle has a chance to consume it? This is where people finally need to stop asking what I call tiny questions. Should I switch coffee brands? Should I save $3 here? Should I worry about every microscopic purchase? Those questions matter when you are on the edge, and every small number really does matter. But once you have some breathing room, your future will be shaped less by $3 decisions and more by $30,000 systems. Do you use your employer match? Do you fund tax-advantaged accounts? Do you automate saving and investing? Do you keep fixed costs reasonable? Do you let raises disappear into lifestyle inflation? Do you invest consistently? Those are the questions that decide whether you become stronger or merely more comfortable. If I were in this stage, the first place I would look is employer benefits. A company match is one of the rare moments in finance when the right answer is almost offensively obvious. If someone offers to match a portion of your retirement contribution, you take it if at all possible. That is not a clever opinion. That is arithmetic. The second place I would look is tax advantage space. People love to debate Roth versus traditional, as if they are already managing the end game of great wealth. Most of them have not even begun the game. I prefer first-order questions. Are you using the accounts available to you? Are you filling them consistently? Are you building the habit of participation? Because the real power of those accounts is not that they make you sound sophisticated at dinner. The real power is that they reduce friction, increase automation, and allow compounding to work with less tax drag over many years. That is where ordinary contributions start becoming extraordinary balances, not through drama, through duration. That is also why automation matters so much in this stage. At lower income, you may be manually steering everything because you have to. At middle income, you should begin to trust systems more than memory. I do not want to wake up every month and renegotiate with myself about whether I should save. That is exhausting. I want money flowing to the right places before my mood has any vote. A good system means retirement contributions happen. Roth contributions happen. Savings transfers happen. Bills are paid. And all of that happens with less friction than relying on willpower. Willpower is overrated. Structure is underrated. A person who automates ordinary good behavior quietly outruns a person who intends to be excellent and is rarely consistent. This stage is also where I begin asking bigger questions about fixed costs. Not out of fear, out of seriousness. Housing, transportation, insurance. Those three categories can overwhelm the rest of your budget if you let them. A lot of people reach middle income and assume it is finally time to upgrade everything. Bigger apartment, more expensive neighborhood, nicer car, more services, more dining out. That path feels natural. It also slows compounding more than people realize, because what you are really doing is making the lifestyle heavier at the exact moment your financial structure should be getting lighter and stronger. I would rather use the middle income stage to make the machine more efficient, less friction, more automation, more ownership, better use of tax shelter, more money directed into assets without emotional negotiation. That is how this stage pays off, not by looking richer, by becoming more organized. And if you do this, well, something interesting happens. Money stops feeling like a monthly crisis and starts feeling like an operating system. That is stage 2. Now let us move to the stage people envy most and often misunderstand most. The high-income stage, call it 100,000 and up, sometimes much more. This is where people assume the hard part is over. It is not. The danger simply changes shape. At lower income, the danger is fragility. At middle income, the danger is drift. At higher income, the danger is imitation. High earners often have more money than they ever imagined they would make, and yet many of them are spiritually and financially confused. They have enough income to buy almost any default version of success. House in the right zip code, large vehicle, expensive habits. Professionally managed portfolio they do not fully understand. And because the numbers are larger, the mistakes look respectable. That is the problem. The expensive trap often looks like adulthood. I have seen people with excellent incomes who still live paycheck to paycheck because they bought the standard script without ever asking what they actually wanted. They said they wanted freedom, then described a life made almost entirely of fixed obligations. They said they wanted independence, then chose a cost structure that requires a large paycheck forever. That is not independence. That is a higher class dependency. This is why I think the high-income stage requires something more philosophical than the earlier stages. It requires clarity. You must define your rich life, not in slogans, not in vague phrases like "I want to do what I want." That is not clarity. That is laziness wearing expensive shoes. What do you actually want your money to buy? Do you want time? Do you want travel? Do you want generosity? Do you want a beautiful home and nothing else extravagant? Do you want to retire early? Do you want to work forever, but on your own terms? Do you want to support family? Do you want flexibility more than status? There is no universally correct answer. But there is a universally expensive mistake, never answering the question. When people do not define rich life for themselves, society defines it for them, and society has very expensive taste. That is why I would force specificity at this stage, because purpose gives money direction without direction. Larger income simply increases the speed at which drift becomes lifestyle. This is also the stage where hidden fees and hidden assumptions deserve attack. One of my least favorite words in high-income personal finance is comfort. People say, "I have a guy. I have someone managing it. I do not need to think about it." And then they quietly pay 1% of assets under management year after year, never bothering to do the long-term arithmetic. 1% sounds harmless to people who do not understand compounding. Over decades, it is not harmless. It can quietly consume a shocking portion of the end result. The point is not that no one should ever pay for advice. The point is that many people pay for the feeling of being looked after without asking what that feeling is costing them. I dislike vague costs attached to lazy thinking. This stage is also where the buy versus rent conversation becomes more subtle than internet slogans allow. A lot of high earners assume buying a house is what serious adults do. Sometimes it is a wonderful decision. Sometimes it is a massive fixed cost anchor disguised as progress. The down payment, interest, taxes, maintenance, insurance, opportunity cost, inflexibility, and emotional pressure are all real. If a house genuinely supports the life you want, wonderful. If it merely helps you look like someone who has made it, then you may be purchasing a symbol at the price of freedom. That is too high a price for symbolism. What matters in this stage is not whether a choice looks affluent. What matters is whether it increases alignment between your money and your actual life. That is the whole test. Does the decision increase freedom? Does it improve optionality? Does it reduce friction? Does it support the life you want? Or does it simply match the costume everyone else is wearing? People with higher incomes can make very expensive mistakes because they can survive them longer. That is what makes this stage dangerous. The feedback is delayed. A lower income person knows immediately when a decision hurts. A high income person can maintain the wrong structure for years and call it success. Then one day they wake up overextended, overcommitted, overfeed, and under-free. I do not want that life. So if I step back and look at all three stages together, the logic becomes very simple. At low income, buy breathing room. At middle income, build systems. At high income, define purpose. That is the upgrade path. The exact numbers may vary by city, family structure, inflation, and all the rest. I am not worshiping the numbers. I am worshiping the sequence, because sequence protects people from solving the wrong problem. A low-income person trying to optimize tax strategy before they have an emergency fund is solving the wrong problem. A middle-income person obsessing over tiny discretionary cuts while ignoring employer match, automation, and tax. Advantaged investing is solving the wrong problem. A high-income person buying every symbol of success without defining what money is meant to serve is solving the wrong problem. That is why general money advice frustrates me so often. It ignores stage, and stage changes everything. I have always believed that wealth is less about intelligence than it is about matching the right behavior to the right season. There is no honor in using advanced language to avoid basic truths. The basic truths are enough. Breathing room matters, systems matter, purpose matters. If you get those three right at the right time, the rest of your financial life becomes much less mysterious. So if I were advising someone from the ground up, I would not begin with an investment product. I would begin by asking, what is your stage and what is your real job right now? If your job is to survive and stabilize, do that without shame. If your job is to build the machine, do that without distraction. If your job is to define rich life and stop buying the default American script, do that without apology. Because money is not there to make you look like everyone else. It is there to help you build a life that is genuinely yours. And the sooner you understand which stage you are in, the sooner your money can stop working against you and start working in your favor. That is how I would think about it. Not as three isolated income brackets, as one long progression from panic to structure to freedom. And at every stage, the question is the same. What is the one thing that matters most? Answer that honestly, and you are already wealthier in judgment than many people who earn far more than you do.